All right, good evening, everyone. We are here once again for another WPG Academy session. We were so delighted last time, and it was such a positive session. We've invited Christoph Sietzen back. Christoph, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. And there's a lot of marimba action, as you probably saw on the spreadsheet, so I hope that's okay. Marimba is definitely
Actually, that's right.
definitely the topic of the night, for sure.
We're the percussionists.
Yeah. So, for anyone watching, just tell us what you've been up to lately. What projects have you got on the go?
I'm actually now at my practice room at the moment, and one floor beneath, I have built up together with my colleagues Les Noirs de l'Étoile by Gérard Grisset, and we are playing this in 12 days at Salzburg Festival.
Okay.
And we are rehearsing this quite a lot at the moment, and sadly, we kind of have a heat wave here in Austria.
Oh, really?
And the hall that we are practicing in this in has quite some windows. It's a fantastic hall, actually,
Yeah.
but so we have enough space and everything, but it's really hot. I think we have
You get
about 30 degrees.
the greenhouse
And
effect, for
yes,
sure.
yeah. So that's the main thing I'm working on, and I have a few more concerts in July, and then I'm very happy that in August I will take some time off because I had quite a dense season actually with two concerti that I actually world premiered
Yeah,
and had to
great.
learn, and lots of other projects. And well, this was my first year as a professor actually at the Linz Bruckner University.
Yeah.
So
Congratulations.
that's also, well, thank you, and that's also something that of course added up a little bit, but also gave quite some pleasure, of course,
Yeah.
to have a more. I mean, I was working there before, as you might have known, but now I kind of took over a little bit more responsibility in
Mhm.
the we have in Linz. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And what were the two concertos that you did?
Well, the first one was by Austrian composer Johannes Maria Staud,
Uh-huh.
and I did this in October with the Cleveland Orchestra and Franz Welser Möst,
Yeah.
which was a huge honor and quite a thing. And I will actually be posting some excerpts at some point when
Oh,
I
yeah,
have
great.
time.
Yeah.
It's quite a bust of quite a really amazing concerto.
Mm.
It's very sought out. It's very complex, but it's still approachable, and I think very melodic in its own sense.
Yeah.
And the second one is by German composer Detlef Glanert,
Okay.
also a very established composer in his 60s now, who is very much known for his operas, but also for his other works. And he wrote a concerto for marimba, vibraphone, and a little bit of glockenspiel and orchestra. And
Okay.
I think that's pretty interesting because from this kind of composer that you know is kind of really based in the opera world, to
Yeah.
have a concerto for this kind of instrumentation is pretty rare. There are not that many concerti. Also, the orchestra is not that huge.
Right.
It sounds big because he is very good at instrumenting, but so it's, I think it's a really nice addition to the repertoire because it's a pure mallet concerto with a rather small orchestra, but from a composer that it's not from the percussion scene or not related to the percussion.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that this would be anything bad, but it's just a little bit different to
Sure.
have
For sure.
someone that doesn't have a close relation to percussion, but so much experience with other instruments and other formats.
Yeah.
The outcome will simply be different from someone who is closely related to percussion, I think, or even him or herself a percussionist. So yeah,
Yeah, that's
turned
great.
out really well, I have to say.
So are you planning to play those 2 concertos again, like anywhere else?
Yes, I actually, in fact, next season I will play the Stout. I mean, I played the Stout concerto in the meantime with the Vienna Symphony at Concertus Vienna,
Yeah.
and I will play it with the WDR Symphony Orchestra in Köln and Cologne and Essen, and with the Stuttgart Radio Symphony in Stuttgart, and at the Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg. And so there are some dates planned, and also with the Bruckner Orchestra in Linz.
Okay.
In Linz and at Vienna Musikverein, which is fantastic because I'm living in Linz and this is like the orchestra of my hometown, and I have many friends in this orchestra and we're playing it. And the Glarnert, I'm playing with the HR Symphony Orchestra in Frankfurt. This will be my first concert next season in September. And then in Spain, we will be touring it with the Euskadico Orchestra. So these are the plans so far. And yeah, I'm happy that I think it's always great if you get the opportunity, obviously, to play pieces more than once.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge, isn't it? Like doing one is obviously a challenge, but like keeping it rolling is even bigger challenge. So
yeah, definitely.
Everyone wants the premiere. So
yes, but I mean, we put so much work into it. The composers do as well.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
So I'm happy that it worked out with those 2 concerti, and I think both of them are fantastic pieces. I mean, you never know in advance, you know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure.
Even if you know the composer, who knows what will come out, and especially with percussion, most composers, I mean, they kind of need, every composer actually needs to find a specific way to write for this instrument, because there are the endless possibilities.
Yeah.
And it's fun because they're both concerti, I mean, the Staud and the Glarnert, they are very, very different. But in their own right, I think very good. Very, very good concerti. So
amazing. Well, congratulations. We should probably roll on with the night and bring on our first guest.
Absolutely.
So, Andy. Hey, buddy.
Hello.
Hey, do you want to introduce yourself and what you're going to be performing?
Hi there. My name is Andy. I go to TAMUCC, or Texas A&M University Corpus Christi. I study with Caleb Pickering. Today, I am playing Etude in C Sharp minor by Casey Cangelosi.
Great.
All right. Any problems? Just raise your hand if you can't hear it, or you want to stop. That's fine, and then I'll duly oblige. Here we go.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, now you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect, perfect. So thank you very much. Andy, I think I have some trouble with your choice of tempo sometimes. I think this would be my first concern, and actually I wanted to hear, like, because to be honest, I liked most the places where you kept kind of a little bit more steady tempo, and then there were some places where actually you did some very rapid tempo changes, and I think it would help a lot to keep the tempo a little bit more structured, you know. Because if you do too many swift changes, then it can just get pretty confusing for the audience at some point. This is something that I always tend to say, and I think it's very important that we always have to think about as performers that we spend weeks, maybe months with a piece, and we know it very well. So, but the public actually usually hears it for the first time, and that of course changes a lot, because things that might sound or feel logical for you after spending so much time for it with it might simply feel very different for someone that listens it for the very first time. So I think that's a thought that you should consider when you actually when you're approaching a piece, to really take the public by the hand and guide them through the piece, and to become a little bit more specific. For example, this trials on the first page, but also on the second line of the second page. I know that on the second page, on the second line, there's a ritardando, but you're simply playing, I don't know, almost half time immediately, and that for me it simply loses the relation if you're doing this, you know. So I would very much prefer that you keep the structure up with simply connecting this a little bit.
Okay.
And now if we go back to the beginning, I think the beginning could be a little bit more a statement. I think you already tried this, but this first chords, I personally would feel this to be played a little bit bigger, with a bigger movement, you know, a little bit more like you're giving a statement, like a timpani player who's really playing for a bigger hall in terms of the approach, and not think about the accents too much, but rather a very open legato sound. I mean, the etude for me is quite obviously influenced by piano music. Of course, I think we immediately think of something like Chopin or maybe even Rachmaninoff, something of that era. And however, if you think of a piano, then they do have some possibilities that we don't immediately have connected with the sound, and for them it's much easier to connect notes. They simply have to press a pedal, basically. We have to work much harder for that, and I think that's something we should take into consideration if we're playing this kind of music. And then with all this kind of runs, Apache, Also there, I mean, you're doing well on many of them. I just think that sometimes on those to take a little bit more time, and I mean it depends where, obviously, but for example, if you take right the first arpeggio after the first chords, yam ba ba da 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 da, really try to, I think at the beginning, take a little bit more time, play out those notes, fill the space, fill the time that you take with sound, and then try to do the accelerando as homogeneous, as fluid as possible. Yes.
Okay.
Because sometimes in those runs it happens that it suddenly sounds very a little bit stressed, it should sound very relaxed, not like you put your finger into electricity to use a drastic image. So not too abrupt, but always flowing, always with relation to the notes before. Or yam ba da 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 da, never just yam ba 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 ba, and then also not too fast, so that we can still actually understand and hear the notes that are being played.
Okay.
Yeah. That being said, if you watch the dynamic of the first line, actually we have forte, and then the trial should be, at least according to the score, still in forte. And as far as I remember, you played this in piano.
Yes.
What's the reason for that choice? Is there a specific reason?
As like it speeds up and it goes higher towards the top end of the keyboard, it feels like it's speeding up almost into like a whisper, right? Like it's like throwing a ball, right? And how like the ball, like you get those first few really big bounces, and as it keeps going, it just gets smaller and smaller and faster, right? And this is just kind of the tail end of that. So that is kind of the thought behind it.
Yeah. I see what you mean, and I could imagine this at other places. I personally wouldn't be so sure about this place. Coming back to this idea of first giving a statement, like an entrance statement. And if you go too quickly into a smaller dynamic, then you lose that power a little bit. And also, I do like the idea of the subito piano in the second line, because it supports the harmony change, actually. And that being said, as I said, I get your idea with the ball, and of course then the diminishing dynamic. But on the other hand, if you think of it, of just filling the sound filling the spaces of the lower notes in the beginning with sound, but then actually getting more presence with the smaller notes, I think that could also work very well. However, of course, then you would have to take the trial in the tempo that's written, so yam ba bam, and not take too much time, so that you actually connect this as one phrase. And I think that's something that could really help for the whole piece to try and think a little bit again about where to connect which phrases. Because the danger really is that that if we do too many alterations in a too short amount of time, then it's exactly where it gets confusing for the public. So I think it would be a good advice to actually try and stretch some phrases over a little bit longer time. And this one, for example, could be a good example and good opportunity actually. So you have the chords yam bum ba da 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 yam bum bum, and then you start again from the piano, leading down to the F sharp. You know, not to split it up in too many small slices.
I get you.
Great, great. And that being said, also, I mentioned this before, working out the harmonies a little bit, trying to lead the harmony very carefully. And yeah, as I said, I would really try to keep this accelerandi in all those runs very, very fluid. Actually, like you said, like a ball, which means that it's a perfect accelerando, getting a bit faster step by step, and no sudden changes, no waves, but a very consistent line. On page 2, also here, there are so many tempo changes and sometimes very slow tempi that I didn't really quite understand. What's your thoughts behind that?
Are you talking about like the first 2 lines of that, or the longer runs?
Exactly.
Yeah. So for the first 2 lines, a lot of it feels. I think I take a lot of like kind of how he wrote that specifically into account with it, right? Because it's like you have that septuplet, right, and then it looks like you have like those grace notes going into another one, right? But it feels like there's more of like a flow to this part specifically, like this phrase specifically. I don't know how to. I'm trying to think about how to like properly explain that.
I think you said it the exact right thing, that it's about the flow.
Yeah, like it pushes and pulls a lot.
Okay, if that's what you mean with flow, then we are talking about something different. Because for me, these pushes and pulls are simply too exaggerated and actually disturbing the flow in the end. You know, if you're that's exactly in a different way from what I said for the first page. If you're doing too many things in a too short amount of time, then it's the exact opposite that you will reach, I think. And actually, there are quite some parts in this concerto that are pretty free, you know, like the first page actually, or also the remaining second page, which are already like a cadenza. And I think, for example, those first 2 lines of the second page could give you a possibility to establish a little bit like a tempo feeling, and with that give some orientation to the public probably. So I personally would definitely use that, and I already spoke about the trial at the end of the second line. Also keep that a little bit in relation.
Okay.
Then at the third page, he now establishes this melody in the right hand, in the upper line. And just be careful if you not to draw too much attention to the lower line, because I think this should simply support the melody. And if you do too many quick changes there, also in tempo, if it gets too nervous, let's say, this is where you actually take away the attention from the melody. So I would try to concentrate a little bit more on the melody and keep the rest a little bit more calm. In fact, always supporting the melody.
Okay.
And for example, I think for me would be pretty clear that that this phrase of this melody starts basically with the last two notes of the second page, right? I mean, I don't know if you have it in front of you now, but
No, I do. Yeah.
yeah. So with the E and F sharp, bum, bum, bum. And for me, it would be one phrase until the end of page 3, until the fermata. And it would make very much sense to actually stop at the fermata and take some time. And I think this would help the structure of the piece to really try and establish the melody on the third page, supported with the left hand a little bit more calm, and then really try to establish one phrase, just one phrase until this fermata. Then take a little bit of breath and start with the next section, which is kind of a elaboration of this one.
Okay.
Does this make any sense for
Yeah,
you?
no, this makes sense. Correct. Yeah.
And it would be great to in a normal, what means in a normal, but if we would be in the same room, then we could just try some things out, obviously, and work on it directly. Like this, I can only share my thoughts about it, and this is definitely what I would consider.
Okay.
Yes, then you have the repetition of those two segments, so I think we don't have to speak about this again. With those blocked chords with the 6 tuplets, and I mean which are kind of appearing, for example, on page 5 in the third line. I think the danger is big, as the marimba in the end is a percussion instrument, that we close the sound a bit, and we just get percussive. And I think what's meant by this, and also if you consider the original pieces for piano, it's very often that this is being used to really bring the energy up a lot. However, again, on the piano, it's much easier if you play this not to close up the sound or close down the sound. I don't know how you say this properly. You're
to not like choke it.
Choke it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I think a certain amount of choking could be fine, but don't kill it.
Gotcha.
I think it's this kind of energy, but it still needs the sustain of the sound. Yeah, it needs a little bit of air. And I think similar for the end, and also there, I'm repeating myself, but I wouldn't change the tempo so much because as I said before, I think you're taking away the flow rather than helping it. Don't split it up in too many small passages. And something also to consider is that we do have quite some possibilities of quite some tools when we are playing something. And I don't think that changing the tempo or playing with tempo should be the first tool to consider, because we have dynamics, we have sound colors, we have maybe some different accentuations, so we can play short, long, and so on. So there are tons of possibilities, and so there's a lot of things to do. And I think the tempo is rather at the end of that spectrum, if you think of the possibilities that you can use, really. because if you do all of the things I named and you still keep the tempo, you can still point out so many details. You can point out the harmony, the melody. You can do a lot with voicing, sound colors, and so on. You can create the mood and so on. But if you keep the tempo, then it will still hold it together. I think it's your kind of glue that puts everything together. And if you change the tempo too much, then the danger is that it really falls apart.
Okay.
And therefore I would try to use those other tools first and have the tempo as a last option, and especially the tempo in the sense of changing the structure of the complete bar. So it's also a difference if you're doing a rubato in that sense, that you are getting slower within the bar, but that the next bar or the one of the next bar is actually in time. Yes, so you're a little bit free in between, but you are actually keeping the structure of the piece. I think that should be a step kind of in between to consider before you really change the bigger structure.
Okay.
Yeah, and then obviously there is this last build up to the end, which is starting. I just skipped it, which is starting at page 7 in the third line, third system, or even second system, but I think, yeah, probably in the second system. And this would be important, that this is, I think, very clear that from there it's a big build up to the end, and also to leave some reserves for the end, so that you actually really reach the highest point at the fortissimo at the end of page 11. Yes, after that it's kind of a resemblance to the beginning, and like this opening gesture that you did in the beginning. I think this is kind of the mirrored phrase for the end, basically waving goodbye. But the big climax really is before that, obviously. And also there, I would choose a tempo that you can really keep through, and where you can still play out all the notes and lead the harmony.
Okay.
Cool. That's
Cool.
about it for now. I hope that helps.
Okay. No, that helps a lot. Like I really appreciate that. Actually, thank you.
Great. How long are you playing this piece?
Like how long have I played it, or how long will I keep playing it?
No, how long have you played it? Yes.
Since September of 23.
Okay.
So,
okay. Nice.
A little bit.
And when did you record the video? I guess not. Or very
early
recently,
June,
or
like
okay.
early June, maybe a little before that.
Nice.
All right. Have you got any questions, Andy, you want to quickly throw out?
No, I mean there's a lot to take in, and I'm like I have little notes on that, so I'm gonna kind of figure that out in a second. But I really do appreciate those, like really good feedback. Thank you.
Great, and I'm happy.
Nice job. Well done.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Jack next. Jack. Hello.
Hello.
You're right.
Hi, Jack.
The floor is yours.
Cool. So, hello. I'm Jack. I've just finished first year studying at Newcastle University, and the piece you're going to see is the piece that I played in my final recital a few a couple of months ago now. It's As the Snow Falls by Robert Otomo. So I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, just for my understanding, final recital of the first year?
Of
or
first
because
year,
it's-
yes, and end of year recital, not the end. Of
okay. Yes. Okay, so you haven't finished in 1 year.
No, of just no,
Not
just on the first year.
great. And
Yes.
who's your teacher in Newcastle?
Stephen Moore. I don't know whether you know him.
Okay, great. No, not personally.
Cool.
All right.
Okay, so let's give it a listen.
Yeah.
It's still muted, I think.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Great. Yeah, sorry, I had disconnected my earplugs in between, and then somehow it didn't connect again. Great, thanks. Are you from England, actually?
Yes.
Great. So are you looking forward to Sunday?
Yeah, I am. I can't say I'm hopeful. I mean, it's not looking good, I don't think. But
Okay.
it'll be a good occasion.
Okay. Well, I was enjoying the last game, I have to say. Not the ones before, but the last one definitely. So let's hope for a good game.
Let's hope. Yeah.
But anyways, nice. So in general, I think you showed quite some sensibility, especially in the more soft passages, and I think that's something that you can definitely build on. What I would encourage you in general, I mean, since you are now in the first year, I think you obviously your technique is still not finished, yes, and
Yeah.
one of the things that I would imagine could help is that at the moment you're playing the notes very separated from each other in many of the occasions, and actually in a piece like this it really lives from the flow actually as well, like we had just before with your colleague, and so I think this would be a great opportunity actually to work on the legato movement, and both when you are playing single strokes, so when you're playing left right, but also if you're playing in one hand, to try and first of all use your wrist a little bit more, which will help you to simply play softer. And I mean softer, especially in the higher dynamics, because I think with the marimba, the difficulty is not to play a soft, nice legato in piano, because that's definitely the sweet spot of the instrument. It kind of almost works, and you made pretty good use of that actually in your performance. You played many of the passages very, very soft, and I think that helped you a lot. However, for the future with different repertoire, and I think also in some parts of this piece, it would be a great addition to your palette that you can offer to the public, to be able to also play the sound color in higher dynamics. And for that, then you will definitely need a lot more wrist movement led by the arm. So a very natural movement.
Yeah.
And also to be able to connect more notes in one hand. And for that, I think you will need a combination of arm and wrist movement, because the arm can always give you the phrase, while the wrist can hit the single notes. Yes, but if you stay down with your arm and you just play them from up, then you will always have separated notes. But if you actually have this big movement that is connecting the notes while your wrist is actually playing them, then I think this will give you quite some more options, in fact.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, the tempi of the piece are pretty slow, the way they are indicated. However, I think you notice that you are even quite a bit slower than what's written. Is there a special intention with it, or you just wanted to feel a bit safer, or
There was a couple of things. Part of it was I thought I should I could change my interpretation a little bit to fit with the acoustic of the room, because I thought if the room's quite boomy, so I thought I could play a bit slower and it will come out a bit better in the room. And then the other thing behind playing it a bit slower was I needed to fill time in my recital.
Okay, I see. That's a good reason. Okay, well, I see. So, anyways, if you play it again and you maybe have a bigger repertoire in the future, then you might consider taking it a little bit quicker, because I think at least musically it will help you and it will make some things easier.
Yeah.
To really connect the notes. Also, you have to take care a little bit with a piece like this. There's quite some repetition of the musical material.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing, but the challenge for you as a performer is to actually always maybe put a different light on the material. So with every repetition, show a little bit of a different side.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on the other hand, not give the public too much time to realize that you're actually repeating the phrase more or less. So in other words, if you play it too slow, the danger is a little bit that it gets a little bit too obvious and therefore boring maybe for the public. At least it makes it more difficult for you that it doesn't become boring. Let's say like this. The danger is that it loses a little bit of the energy, obviously. So, and also there, I think the flow really comes with connecting the notes, and obviously the slower you play it, the harder it gets to connect.
Yeah.
So I'm just checking. So obviously the first two lines are kind of a introduction.
Yeah.
And then a melody starts in bar 9.
Yeah.
Also there, if you're playing ba-da-dum, ba-da-bum. So with the tempo, take care a little bit that you keep this flow of dum, ba-da-dum, ba-ba-bum, ba-da-dum, ba-ba-bum. That what happened a little bit is that you played yum, ba-ba-bum, 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 ba-ba-bum.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think you can do that maybe once, maximum twice, but not more often than that, because if it becomes systematic, again, it's something that the public already expects.
Yeah.
And they will. Well, it's good if the public has some expectations, and if they can build up a relation with the material you're playing. But if you fulfill their expectation too often, then it's getting a little bit dangerous. So at a certain point, you need to surprise them.
Yeah.
And this you can do a little bit later. Now, obviously, yeah, what I talked before in the ninth bar really applies to really try and support the melody in the right hand with the left hand. With the left hand being played more legato, actually. Because if you would sing that phrase, yes, you would probably hold this G sharp, yes, and not go away immediately, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's always the difficult thing for us percussionists, that we cannot hold any notes, obviously, and same on the piano. If you play the melody on the piano, then it also you have the attack, and then the note kind of disappears. On the piano, not as quick as on the marimba, but it does disappear. Whereas on a violin, or if you would sing it with a string instrument, whatever, you can hold it. Now, what you can achieve actually is to create the illusion of a crescendo on that very note, and especially if you have the help of your left hand, which you do in that case. So if you manage to play the G sharp a little bit more soft, to have less attack, but then actually really help with the left hand. Yes. Then you can, in the best sense, if it works, create the illusion of a crescendo, or at least of holding this note.
Yeah.
Then if you have something like in bar 25 called a mezzo forte, I would definitely play a little bit louder, or maybe not louder is maybe the wrong expression, but a little bit more intense and more sound. As I said, I like that side that you brought in of very fragile and pretty slow in order to fill in some time, but at some other points you also do have to, I think, to bring a little bit of a different energy in. Then if you go back to piano, the piano will actually sound stronger and feel more interesting again for the public if you did something else in between. Yeah, of course. Then in bar 41, for example, he's bringing in those dissonances. That's also something that is new, and that's kind of bring a little bit of a different aspect again to the melody. And I think you can, try and really bring that out, and not even with not even as an accent, obviously, but here's where you can do something with subtle sound colors, actually, that you try and bring a little bit more weight into it, a little bit, that you lean forward a little bit, you push a little bit more from the arm, but stay very relaxed in the hand. This would be a way of putting a little bit of a more intense sound color on it, without actually playing it much louder. Whereas in 49, we have the forte, and also in the following section, there it would be great if you managed. I think that's something more of a long-term project, but to here it's even more important to use your wrist, basically, because there the danger is of course bigger, that it sounds aggressive, or that it sounds too percussive. And I think this would be a good advice to try and all these octaves to really play them with a little bit more weight instead of power, and really use your wrist. Don't block the mallets too much, so that the instrument can ring and can sound.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. That's basically it. And then after this forte section, you're actually coming back to pianissimo with a reprise of the beginning. And as I said before, I think then if you put a little bit more energy into the forte section, then I think this pianissimo will come out better.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
that
it
makes-
for now.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No, probably not about the piece. I think you've probably covered everything that that I thought about in terms of the piece. But like outside of the piece, how would you? So let's say you have like a big solo concert coming up, or a big gig, let's say, and how would you go about like preparing for a big gig, like in terms of having a solo performance?
Well, first of all, start in time, which I never managed in the past year. I was always starting way too late. So be sure to have enough time. In general, when I start the piece, I not necessarily start on the marimba, but actually very often it helps to kind of get an overview a little bit just with the score and get an idea of the different sections and what is happening there, because I think it really helps you to decide also where you spend your time, or where maybe some places are repeated. Also, I think getting an idea of the structure or of the systems, if this is a tonal system or if this is a specific atonal system, can help very much in order to learn the piece quicker. Because it's a little bit like if you know the grammar of a language where you have to learn a text, it's way easier than if you simply learn it by the sound of it. Yes.
Yeah.
And well, so this would be my first advice if you're actually starting to learn a piece, and to get an overview of the structure a little bit, and where there are changes and where there are not. And well, then obviously you need to learn it well if you want to play it by heart. And I think it's important that even if you play it by heart, you also learn all the additional information like dynamics or articulation. That's something that's sometimes we can forget about, and you actually stay true to the score. Like if you want to change something in the score, or if you want to change too much of the tempo, I think then you really need a good reason for it. That's why I'm asking also sometimes, like, if there's some changes, like, what's the reason? And I think it's important to have a good reason actually, for yourself. And then before a performance, for me it's like this, that if I can, like, there's this this movement memory, apart from the sound memory maybe, or from the memory of envisioning the piece without any instrument. And for me, I feel secure when I manage to go through a piece without a problem, without movement. For me, that's a pretty good indicator usually, if I know the piece well enough, because the memory of movement, it's a pretty nice help. But if you're nervous, or if you are unsure about the section and you have to react quickly, then sometimes it's not the most faithful. So it can simply disappear. And especially if you start thinking about it. And of course, when you're stressed, then you do start thinking about it. And I think this is where blackouts are happening mostly. Whereas when you really know the piece well enough that you don't have to rely on that kind of memory, then you will have a much better base to stand on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I hope that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Great.
All right. Anything else, Jack?
No, I think that's pretty much everything. That's been great.
All right. Good job. Well done. Nice one. Very good. All right. We're going to have Jake next. Hey, buddy.
Hello.
You all right?
Hi.
Hey,
Alright.
Also,
Yeah.
I have this in front of me if you want me to do anything on it.
Oh,
So,
cool. Do you know what
yeah.
might be better? Are you on your phone?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe twist it like, yeah.
Yes.
That's
Sorry,
better.
I would be on a laptop, but the Wi-Fi here is
No,
pretty
that's cool.
bad.
That-
So.
That's better actually. So
Wait, let me fix it up. Sorry. Okay,
Yeah,
that
that's
should
fine.
be fine. All right, cool.
cool. All right, over to you.
do you
All
want
right,
to play
hi.
live or is there a video that you're playing?
There's a
We-
video.
We have a video. It's probably best to hear
Okay.
it through the video,
Okay,
and
so
then if
we'll
you
go
want to
for the
work
video
on a couple of
first
things-
and then actually go to, maybe you can play something live.
Sure.
we can
Yeah,
try.
and it's been a while since I've played this piece. I know the top of it pretty well still. Just to kind of let you know where I'm at with it now. Because like I first,
Okay.
because
I
this
won't
video
make you
was
play
a
the
few months
complete
ago.
piece.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
fine. That's
So
fine. But sorry, Tim. Actually, should we still go through the whole piece because it's
No,
a
you
little
don't-
bit
you don't
longer,
have to.
or should we?
yeah, if you just raise your hand when you want to stop, and I'll stop.
Let's see. I mean, maybe it's not too bad to actually get an overview of the complete thing, and
Okay.
then we just might dig into the beginning a little bit.
All right.
Yeah,
here we
sure.
go.
Okay, great.
The spurt variations take one.
You might want to cut this like 20 seconds, Tim. Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Nice. Wow, great.
Thank you.
Great. No, seriously. I mean, that's such an effort to learn a piece like that.
Yeah, it took a while.
It's quite a thing to, and you played it very, very well. So congratulations, really.
Thank you.
Before we might maybe try out some things and go into detail a bit, just some general thoughts. How should I say this? You are at many places very, very exact and accurate, and you also in big parts actually play very well the dynamics that are written, and also you are doing many things right. In the big picture, the only thing that I could argue is that with a piece like this that is on a how do you say, on a how do you say this in English the best, on a brain level, yes, so demanding,
Yeah.
yes, and
Right,
so
yes.
complicated. The only danger is that we lose sight a little bit of maybe what you can express with this.
Right.
Yes, and don't get me wrong, it's not that you didn't express anything. Absolutely not. You did a lot. I just think that on some places there would be room for some more, to tell a bit more the story actually.
Yeah.
And I know there's so much complexity and so much texture and so much happening. And I would just advise to, I mean, you mastered this so well that I think if you keep on playing this piece, then you could really try and challenge yourself to go even more beyond that.
Right. Yeah. So I think I kind of would change now is make like the quiet parts more obvious and kind of
Yes.
more open and thinner, because I think the whole time I'm really um thick, and like that's just kind of naturally the way I play. But I think it'd be good to kind of experiment with not this, but like with like this more, you know.
Well, that's a very good point actually, because in a piece that's so intense really over the whole time actually, I think it's very important to have some places that create a difference by taking away some energy. Sometimes this can be a stronger thing to say than if you always are on a high level. And
Right.
there are definitely some places, also for example the bouncing parts, it can be helpful, I think, to try not to control every stroke. Of course you have to control the timing, yes, but instead of really playing every stroke consciously and very aware and you could just try yum also as a
Yeah.
gesture, to kind of see it as one gesture instead of many little ones, yes.
Yeah.
And that
That makes
you
sense.
get a different intensity.
That makes sense. Okay.
And I would try to experiment more with different sound colors at the moment, and I think that's also part of that's kind of what you are saying as well yourself, that a forte is not a forte very often. I mean, or it is a forte because it's the same dynamic, but there are 100 different fortes available. And to expand a little bit on that, yes,
Right.
like you said, thicker and thinner, more heavy, a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit stronger attack or softer attack. I think on some of the places when you get in with with the left hand. Let's see if I find this quickly. But there was one place where you had a mezzo forte, and then you, this is bar 165, I guess.
165.
You're having this mechanic movement in the upper lines, and suddenly you go down to the low C sharp.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the places that I think could use a little bit less push, a little bit less attack. But it could be like, it could be a little bit, it could be actually a great contrast to the upper line, which is very mechanic. And if the left line as a contrast gets in more,
like more like
resonance,
weight. Yeah.
Yes, and weight,
Okay.
but let it loose a little bit. Things like this can add a pretty nice contact. And then also for contrast, and then for example, also in bar 166, to point out the difference even more between the right hand playing very stable in the very same dynamic and very mechanic, but the left hand actually doing the bouncing and kind of fading away in a very relaxed fashion.
Yeah.
All of these differences, to work them out a little bit stronger. This is the challenge, I think, in such a piece, because, as I said, first of all, there's so much complexity and intellectual challenge. I think that's probably the expression that I was searching before. On the intellectual level, it's so demanding. But there is so much emotion hidden in there, and we definitely shouldn't forget about that.
Right.
What does this theme remind you of? Is there anything?
Like any other piece I've heard?
Yes.
Not really a piece, but more of like a style. It reminds me a lot of like the 20th century tone, like the 12th tone row and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Because like there aren't really any consonant moments throughout the whole piece. It's like kind of like it's like based around like whole tone octatonic scales throughout like pretty much the whole thing. So.
Yeah, for sure. And through the piece, I mean, he's playing very much with rhythm and structure instead of harmony, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I know his piece Khan variations much better than the buried variations, and despite them being actually pretty similar, but I just know that in Khan variations he actually writes that in the foreword, that this piece, it's much more about structure, rhythmic development, and not so much about harmonic development also.
Yeah.
But that's actually not even what I was up for. But the theme, for me, it immediately reminded me of the West Side Story.
Oh. I never thought about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it? There's this song, I don't know which exactly, but which is a little bit like flirty, actually. And I'm not sure if this is the right character for this piece. I guess not. But in some of the variations, I think it could be. It could be a little bit more playful, in fact,
Yeah.
And I think this is also an aspect that could be interesting for a piece like that, and not to lose playfulness and joyfulness, actually.
Yeah.
Also, for me, I wouldn't play the first theme too, also like you said, too heavy, too punchy. I know you want to do is to make a statement probably in the beginning, and you want to present the theme. But if you consider
that's what I was trying to do. Yeah.
But if you consider that the theme gets repeated so often and quite intensely very often, I would tend to present the theme in the beginning in a little bit more of an innocent, plain way. you know, because you're going to
Yeah.
work on it for 10 minutes anyways.
Right.
But to go a little
That
bit
makes
more
sense.
distant and kind of take yourself out a little bit and just let the music and the interval speak, I think that could be very interesting, because then you give the public the chance to focus more on the music itself, and especially on the intervals. And also it gives you the opportunity to show the public, by getting actually more intense in the first duration, which is happening after 4 bars, you're enabling the public to understand better how long the theme actually takes and where the first variation starts, which is, I think, very important to in a piece with so many variations and such a complexity, to still be able to give them a sense of structure, and this would be a good beginning to kind of, with that, I think, separate the theme in a subtle way from the first variation.
Yeah.
Do you want to try
That
this
makes sense.
actually?
Yeah, sure. All right. It's not ideal, but it should be all right just for like a
Yeah.
demo. So, all right. So, just to kind of recap for a second, like the beginning should be plain, so I can like further change it as we kind of go throughout the piece, right?
Yeah, that's
All right.
that's my idea basically. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. And would you try to connect the notes a little bit more? Now you're playing very much single notes and pretty clear into the instrument. Yes. Bum, 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 bum. What happens if you try to lead it a little bit? Da dim ba ba di ba di dim ba ba. Yeah. I mean, it's very hard to judge the sound quality now, or to judge the sound through because of the quality now. I think my connection is also not the best at the moment, but I would try to even get more of a legato sound, even.
Okay.
Even more wrist. And just as a test, would you try to play the first 2 bars in one hand? Bum bum ba bum bum ba bum 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 ba bum. Actually, just a G ba with the left hand. Or the right. Okay, great. And now everything a little bit softer. Everything a little bit softer. And no pressure on the mallet at all. Okay, great. Okay, great. And now, the interesting part for me, it's really the rhythmical alteration. You have bum, bum, ba, bum, bum, bum. And then yum, bum, ba, ba, bum.
Yeah.
This is really the surprise. And to work that out a little bit more, to show that a little bit more.
Okay.
And on the same time, the small details like ba-dim, bum, there you're opening up. Yes. Going up a minor third and a ba-dum, bum. Kind of closing. So from a melodic point, or even harmonically speaking, it's bum 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 bum. It's a major third basically, and then going down a second. So for me, the B natural would open up a little bum 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 ba da dum ba dum ba da da yum ba dum bum. You know, and to play with this, also carrying this idea through through the variation 1.
Yeah.
But establishing this for now in the theme that really you lead to the B natural, opening up the sound and closing it a little bit on the F. Not with
Yeah, that
dynamic,
makes
but more
sense.
with sound color. Yeah, you
Yeah.
want to try?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Great. Now, when you are adding the octaves in the bass and also the higher register, I know everything is written in forte now, but I think it could help to play the middle register that you is already established in the beginning, not too strong, actually.
Okay.
You know, so that you
Yeah.
have a difference between the things that you add and the notes that you have already established. Just to have it very clear what's new and what's already been there.
So like kind of like that instead of like.
Exactly.
Cool. All right.
Not to push on every note, you know. Also, he
Yeah.
has these tenuto lines on some notes. I know you're doing that, and they are not even only on the new notes, but just to have a little bit of a different character on what's new, basically.
Right. Okay, cool. Do you want me to start there?
No, I think that's not necessary now, and or we can do this. Actually, we can do this, but it's just a little bit hard for me to hear. But we will still give it a
Right.
try. What I
Okay.
still wanted to say about the beginning of the first variation actually is that what I'm still missing a little bit about it is these rhythmic alterations. I want to feel them. I want to feel them with my body, not just understand them. That would be my challenge. So if you have ba di dim ba da 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 bam ba da ba da dum ba bam bam. So to always kind of point them out, if you have ba da ya bam ba da, that you really make me feel this ya bam bam, and not just da da ya bam bam bam.
Okay. And
Yes, so that you really
yeah.
change the color a little bit, that you really give this sense of movement.
So would then me to kind of do that, brightening up the sound would kind of show that a bit more, right? Like for those kinds of things.
Well, in this specific example, if you have ba di ya bam, then I would actually play the octave a little bit. I would indeed play that heavier with the tenuto lines, but before I would definitely play it a little bit lighter, and probably lean a little bit more on the bass note. I think that could also help. That you ba da ya bam, yeah, and that you stay a little bit on the bass note. That's probably important to play the length of the notes with the articulation.
Yeah.
So, which
Okay.
means if you have 16 and 8 notes, that the 8 notes are not sounding the same, but if that you try to actually make the 8 notes sound long, ya da ya bam, and the 16 notes shorter, and then you will, I think this will help to give this better transmission of the rhythm actually.
Okay.
It's
That makes sense.
like if you have a very good groove on whatever instrument, on the drum set or on some percussion. It's not just about the length of the notes, obviously, but it's about the touch. It's about sometimes even the small imperfections that really makes you feel the groove. And I think this is exactly what you need here. So not to see it too intellectual, but to really make the public feel the changes.
Right. No, yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense. Yeah. Uh-huh.
You want to try maybe again from variation number 1?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jack. Now, I'm saying this because this happened more often. For example, in bar 21, the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're having this rhythm, yam papam. Sometimes you're playing the eighth note a little bit too short and the 16th too wide actually. So what's happening is if I'm singing the complete bar, it's ya da 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 instead of it ya da da dam pa pa pam.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
So
instead
like
of yam
yeah.
pa pa pam, you're kind of playing the 16th a little bit too early but wider. Ya da da.
Okay. So so tighten those up like at the 7/16 bar. Is that what you're talking about? Like the
Exactly. Bar
okay,
21
cool.
and da da dam pa pam. Not to play ya da 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 da. You know? Because this
Yeah.
happens sometimes if you have something like yam pa pa pam, yam pa pa pam, pa 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 pam pa pam, that the 8 notes really stay stable. Because the rhythmic stability is so important in a piece like this. And you're very good at it. It's just some of those places actually are a little bit, you're changing the tempo a little bit. Just take care of those.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay.
Great. Do you maybe, I don't know, you have to tell me until when you still remember or where it makes sense to play the piece now. A section that would be interesting for me would be 33, bar 33.
Or
Okay, that doesn't sound good.
Wait, no. I'm pretty sure I know it.
Okay, yeah, let's give it a try.
Yeah, okay, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about what I got.
Yeah, it's no problem. The danger is a little bit that that the 32s are too short. Dun dun take it up. Don't play them as flams. Still play them out, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to try this now, but it's just something I
Okay.
marked actually before. And what would be really nice is, for example, in this section, if you would manage to, despite the different ranges and the different speeds from bar 33 to the fortissimo in 38, despite all those different like I said, ranges and rhythms, to actually build up the dynamic very steadily.
Okay.
Think this would really help to intensify it. Whereas if some of the 32s kind of sound like flams, you kind of lose a little bit of this intensity.
Yeah.
Yes, but if
Yeah.
every note really builds up step by step, it gets this feeling of you cannot escape.
Yeah, no, yeah. That makes sense.
And then bar 39, the 7/8 bar with the pianissimo, would be a good place to try and at least shortly really relax a little bit, I think, and play a little bit more distantly.
Do you want me to try that bar? Because I'm pretty sure I know
possible,
that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe slowly. Yeah. Okay. Great. I mean, the first bar, it's just leading to a mezzo piano, right? You're starting in pianissimo. Now again, sadly, I can hear you really not too well, and I cannot really judge the dynamics or the attack. But what I want to say is that here also you have a build up over those 3 bars. I think is safe to say. With the repetition of the first bar in parts and then going down a third, but first bar being from pianissimo to mezzo piano, then from piano to mezzo forte, and from mezzo piano to forte. So keep the first bar still very low in dynamics, and not too how should I say? Yeah, a little bit from the distance still.
Okay.
Yes. That great. Yes. Good. I think you can even play lower dynamics, especially in the first bar when it's just mezzo piano. So really start very soft and go. Don't play the crescendo too much. But we don't have to repeat this now. Actually, I just wanted to say something about bar 46 where you stopped right now. And that is, I think that gives you also a great possibility to the E in the right hand, just very, very soft and very, like it has always been there, you know? Yeah. Not too active. But then in the left hand, very much legato. You can create such a difference to some of the sections that have already happened before, where you had much more rhythmic intensity actually, and I think a much more vertical line, you know, and rhythmic approach. And here it should be much more horizontal, and that's such a nice contrast to what happened before actually. So maybe you can start somewhere there, 46 again, and actually really try, especially in the left hand, to play around the right hand.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the mezzo piano you could play half the height of movement which you are playing now.
Okay.
Just as a try. Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. I think you can have the courage to really go down in dynamics sometimes, you know. So that there's also a difference to variation 3, which is coming right after actually with the mezzo forte. Yes. Great. So this would definitely be my approach to work through the piece in that sense. I think you got my idea a little bit.
Yeah.
That I try to show. I'm not sure if it makes sense, or probably we also don't have time to go through the complete piece now. And I think it's not necessary. And it's actually better if you find your own way, you know, with the information that I gave you now, maybe as a little part to consider, but I think that's the way I would really approach it too. And I think that the picture and the image of vertical and horizontal lines is a very good one for this piece, because sometimes it's so important that you point out the rhythm in a very distinct way. da ba bam ba
Mm.
da ga ga da ga. Something like this. Da da ga ba 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 da. Also very groovy, but sometimes if you have places like the bouncing and like the place we just had, it's more like a string instrument, very fluid, very flexible.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Great. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. So I mean, I've uh, uh, seen you play a lot, and I think the way you play is really, really cool. Um, so
Thank you.
yeah. So I think something I'm trying to start doing now is really trying to find myself in what I'm trying to play.
Sure.
Because for a very long time I've been like trying to like work on a piece for like a specific goal, or like I want to play this well so I can get into this school, or I can like do this well on a thing or whatever. But I think because I'm going to be going to uh, 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 grad school this fall, so one of my goals in those 2 years is I want to kind of find my own voice in what I'm trying to play.
Wait, that means
Without,
how old are you right now?
I'm 22.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
Mhm.
Great.
So, like trying to get away from like thinking about like I need to work on this to make it better, and think about what is the music saying, and like how to like express
Yes.
myself within this kind of thing. Because like
That's an
yeah.
important, very important question, of course, and
Mhm.
very important topic.
Yeah. Yeah, because like
Absolutely. And
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, because like it's so easy for me right now to like when I like look at like a new thing I'm trying to play, you like okay, like there's like this run, and like I got to work on the run, so like I hit like the notes right, and I got to look at the page to follow exactly what it's doing. But then like when I'm trying to go above that, it's hard for me to get there, um, if at all. But it's also hard for me to kind of get there fast, you know. And I want that process between first learning something and making art out of it to be minimized. So what's some ways that
I
you think I can
wouldn't,
do that?
yeah, I wouldn't even, I mean, as I said, it's a good question, and I wouldn't even separate it. I think that's the key, actually. You know, not to separate learning the piece and doing things right from, or setting it up first that you can play it, and from doing art, you know.
Yeah.
Because, well, how should I say that? First of all, what I can see is that you're very far with a lot of things, which is great, and I think you're at exactly the right point to ask yourself that question, that you
Okay.
really bring out yourself, because that's what people are interested in the end, you know.
Yeah.
So I can really encourage you to go on and search for that, because it's in the end it's really not about playing the most perfect thing, you know. It's about what you have to say and how can you touch a public, actually. And the thing with classical music sometimes is that the pieces are so complex and they have so much to say that it gives us the opportunity to hide behind that
Right.
very easy, you know, because it's such a dense texture. And I had the pleasure to play some projects with a singer-songwriter, and he said, I mean, this guy is fantastic, and he writes incredible songs and can play, I don't know, 7 or 8 instruments, and he sings incredibly. But he said for
Wow.
himself that he is not really a master of any of those instruments. But what he knows he's good as is that he means something with every note that he is producing. There's a meaning behind every note, and that's so powerful, right? And so important. And of course, I think if you're playing songs where you don't have such a strong texture, or maybe where lots of it is even improvised in the moment, that really forces you much more to go for that meaning, you know, and also to have the courage for imperfection maybe. And I think to take a little bit of this approach into buried variations, for example, can be very healthy. And actually that's exactly what I tried to tell you with all of those comments that I gave you. I think, yeah, and it's great that this is your thought actually, and you found this for yourself actually, to think, to read between the lines, and not just exactly what's written. Because I mean, I don't know any composer that just writes music for the sake of having something written on paper, you know, that
Right.
maybe has a great structure or whatever. I mean, at least by far the most composers, they surely have a great intellectual background very often, and it helps them to express things on many levels and with huge complexity. But it's in the end a tool to express something, and that's what we shouldn't forget.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, and I think so. You're absolutely right with that. And what I can just tell you is that I think what needs to come first always, and what probably you have to find for yourself, is that you simply know, or try to get to know, what you want to say with that piece, you know, and to have a very clear sound imagination also, and to ask yourself more and more, okay, what do I want to express with these few bars, and which sound will help me to express that? With which kind of voice would I sing that? Would I
That
sing
makes
this
sense.
more
Yeah.
direct? And there you are suddenly in the field of sound colors. Would I send that, or would I say that more direct, more pushy, or maybe a little bit more playful, or a little bit more from the distance? You know, all of those things. And important is that I think they start in your imagination first. And if you have the imagination, then you will surely find a way to transfer this to the marimba. In the end, the marimba is your instrument to express what's inside your head, your heart, what you're feeling.
That
Yes,
makes
but
sense.
it has to start. It has to start here, and therefore, I'm a little bit cautious sometimes with with talking too much about technique, because I think technique should always serve a purpose and a sound. And if you approach music from a too technical perspective, then the danger is to lose what actually you're doing this for. Yes, you shouldn't separate the technique too much with from what you actually want to say with it, and what is the core of why you're a musician.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, thanks. That was really,
Great.
really great. And
All right.
yeah.
Well done.
Nice to
We're
see
going to
you
have to
again,
move
Tim.
on swiftly. Nice one, Jake. All right. We're going to bring
Nice
on
to see that you're still up.
Ian. How you doing?
Hello, hello.
All right.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah, all good.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Oh yeah, I just returned from a 4 or 5 day vacation in Croatia.
Okay.
It was planned to regain energy, but I think the opposite happened. But
Okay.
we will get some energy back now
Well,
over the
you look
weekend, so that's
fine.
fine.
You look fine.
Well,
But
yeah, a bit burned, but okay. That's fine.
yeah, I can see that you had some sun. But
Yes,
that means are you originally from Croatia?
I'm a Slovenian actually, so I come from
You're
Slovenia.
Slovenian.
I
Okay.
was high school. It was in Maribor. You've probably heard of the city, right? And
course.
then bachelor I
It's
completed
not
in
far
Ljubljana.
from where I am at right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Not far at all.
Yeah. Then bachelor in Ljubljana with Professor Simon Klauser, and then now I have just finished the first year of master degree in Copenhagen, mostly with
Okay.
Anders Kan Elton and Johan Bridger, and also Søren Monrad. Those are my main influences or mentors, so to say. And yeah, I'm going into master 2 now. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So
What did I put on? I put on 3 movements from keyboard partita, right? One
Yes.
prelude, minuet, jig.
Yeah. Do you still want to stick with those 3, or you want to go 2?
Yeah, sure.
Or... Okay. Prelude first then.
Cool. Tim, can we actually have the 2 movements and then I give my comments?
Yeah, of course. I forget which one. Minuet.
Minuet, yes.
Okay. Just 1 second. Okay, here's the minuet then.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just trying to open the score here, actually. Just a second. Oh, for some reason it cannot open.
Is the access denied?
No, it doesn't even open. I'm not sure if it's my connection. Let me try again. Ah, now it works. Yes, here we go. Okay, well, nice job, Ian. To be very honest, I'm a little bit undecisive what to say, because I very much appreciate the way you played, the way what you try to make out of it, but my approach would be different, as you might know, even because what I'm doing when I'm playing Bach is actually either search something for an instrument that matches a little bit more the possibilities that we have, like the lute, for example, or actually if I play things for 1 or 2 cembali keyboards, play it with 2 or 4 persons. Like, that's actually the reason why we founded the Wave Quartet. So we did this very consciously, in order to be able to really phrase every note the way a piano could do it. And that's why I say I'm a little bit between two sides here, because at many times you're doing a great job actually in managing extremely well, like the runs in the menuet, for example. It's great how you manage to deal with those difficulties. The only problem is that I still think that there are such limitations that we don't really manage to overcome them. And so I'm really not sure if it's a good idea to play a piece like this just by yourself. For example, also because simply doesn't matter how good you play it. I think the limitations are so big that you simply won't keep up with the original. And it simply has physical reasons, yeah. For example, you do have to make the compromise and actually play on the edge of the bars a lot in order to play those little runs. And of course, we all know that this is a compromise in sound, which wouldn't happen if you, for example, had 2 players, or if it's a piece that, for example, for lute, of course, there might be also some places where you would have to play on the edge, but by far less places. And of course, that makes the phrasing much more difficult. And if we arrange something or transcribe something, we should at least have the chance to keep up with the original, which is hard enough, you know, because especially people are used to that. And of course, some people might be adventurous and they would simply like that it's being played on a new instrument because it's something new. But for many audience members and also especially musicians, I think the limitations that we have will be a little bit of a bigger argument than the fact that it's something new. So if I were you and I would want to play some Baroque music, I would just search for something that you play with a duo partner, or something like a lute suite, where you actually can manage to play everything pretty well yourself. And again, it's not because of you. You are doing great, actually, trying to play that, but it's because of the limitations that I simply see with the instrument. And of course, I'm not the person that is not trying to overcome certain limitations that maybe are just challenges, you know. but there are some facts that we also simply have to accept, I think. That being said, for example, the ornaments right in the beginning of the preludium, they simply get too much the character of a flam for me, because they shorten up too much. You simply don't have the time to prepare them well enough, so you have to squeeze them in a little bit, and with that they sound a little bit too much like a flam. Then of course you are trying and you're managing really well, actually, the phrasing, but I would still wish that you had a little bit more time for movement, actually, you know. Bum, 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 bum. That you actually can give a little bit more of also a feeling for the bar and for the movement in the bar and for the structure. In, for example, also, for example, in the minuet, if you have yada, yada, you know, also the differences, for example, between lines or actually arpeggi. Something like that.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you have so much notes to play, then you simply lose a little bit, that you miss the time to work those out. If you try something like this, then I would try to get a little bit more flexibility in your hand. Sometimes you're pretty static, probably trying to control so that you get the right notes, also considering the difficulty. But if you would manage to, in such a situation, bum, 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 a little bit more, bum, bum, you know, and connect it with the arm instead of playing it like this, I think it will still help you to get a little bit more a sense of this feeling.
Yeah, I agree completely. When I look in retrospect, I think this was October, something like this. I think I was just, you know, in my mind trying to stay zen. I played the whole partita and just try to get through, you know, just to keep calm and just finish it, you know, just play it,
okay,
and get a good take. Of course, when you play it on the concert, it's completely different, right? You I think, at least I am more relaxed actually in a way, because you know what happens. You give your everything, you live in the moment. But here you're like, oh, I can do it 10 takes, and you just, you know, it's kind of, the energy is not even close to being the same, you know. But we all know this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, something that also helps to bring in some energy, and something that is also important with Baroque music, I think, is the dynamic. I mean, of course, there are certain limitations on a harpsichord, but what you for sure have is at least two dynamics, two very clear ones, let's say like this, yes? And so I would have wished sometimes a little bit higher dynamic without getting hard, however. Again, like we talked about previously already, that's a big challenge on the marimba, actually. But this is also where it gets interesting, because you can fill a room with sound. And if you have this opportunity, this possibility to play with more sound, then if you play with less sound, it will be stronger, of course. Yeah. For example, in the preludium, if you have a yum bum 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 da 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 dum bum to really build this up a little bit more. Bum 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 body dim body da 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 dum bum da dum. And then take care with the and then probably go in a little bit more horizontal. Ba-da-dum, da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da. And of course, Baroque music is very much about speech. And I think that's a great example that we can immediately relate.
Yeah, it's a call and response constantly. Yeah. Call and
Exactly.
response. Call and response.
Exactly. However, taking care that the fast notes are not getting too quick. That is not da 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 da, because then you end up you lose the longer line actually. Yes. Of course, then leading through the harmonies, making sure to point out the harmony changes, always something very important in Baroque music. So important. The modulations and also the endings of phrases when you have a cadenza, for example.
Yeah, I think there I probably should have taken a bit more time. This is on the second page of Preludium. Second
Yes.
page, second line, first bar. Here I probably should have breathed more when it comes to the F major resolution, because it feels kind of final, but then you pick it up again and then you keep going until you arrive.
Then
it should have been,
just
I think,
moves
more
back to B flat major. Yeah, no, absolutely. And not too much time, just a very little bit, but I think the breathing that you mentioned is very important actually. It really needs to breathe, and it's important that there are some places where it breathes, that it's not just a continuous stream of melody and information, but there's also kind of a at least short stop. Of course it goes on after, it's not permanent, but it kind of needs that for the structure, that you get some kind of little rest in between. Also, something that's important is to point out the different registers. Obviously, because I'm just looking at this page and the last two lines of that page and of the Preludium, where you're going to the bass register and taking over this motif. But that's again, I think you would simply need a little bit more movement, more time for movement there, in order to play with a little bit more sound, distinct, but not hard. And if you have too less time for the movement, you have to kind of hit it a little bit harder. And this is where you get quite some overtones. And actually, it doesn't sound so much like bass. And that's a bit sad, because then you lose this different character that it could have provided. So
maybe then in general, it would be better, even also safer, right, for live performance, to take it slightly slower, just so, because then you actually do have the time for movement and to speak and to breathe. And also it's just like, slightly easier to pull off all of the things, right? Probably. But not so slow that you would lose the connection between the notes, the phrases.
Yes. That probably could help. I'm not sure if it helps enough to be honest, because you have so many small notes, and something like those ornaments, they really need to be taken care of. And it simply is a difference if you can do this with your fingers on a keyboard, or if you have to use the mallet. Like, it has to be not just the right notes in the right time, but also the amount of pressure that you add exactly at the right moment, so that it doesn't sound hard. It still connects, but it's also that the notes are still conceivable separately from each other. Yes, in German it's this like prall thrill. Prall. I don't know if you. I don't know an English translation for that, but this kind of brum, brum, and not like bum, da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum. Just gives a little bit of special light on those very notes. It points them out a little bit.
Yeah, I've played the whole E minor suite, the lute one, right?
Yes.
And in it, you can instantly notice very big difference, even just because the keyboard partita is so much denser, right? It is a very, very, very big. It's completely different in terms of like brain power usage, or if I could call it that. You need to have a different.
That the lute suite is very easy.
Absolutely no,
but...
not at all. It's just constant polyphony, constant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the point. And in the end, we have 4 mallets, but the pianist has 10 fingers, and I think that's the biggest difference, actually. Great. Actually, Tim, could we have one? Could you play us the beginning of the Menuet once more?
Yep.
Just checking if you're still there.
Yeah, I'm still here. Just so you know, we've just got 5 minutes left. So.
Okay. I see. 5 minutes. Okay.
Do you still want it or not?
No. I mean, 5 minutes in general, or like?
Yeah, it's 8:30 in 5 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can. If you want to go on for 5 minutes, that's fine. But
no, then actually, let's not play it. I think it's not necessary in that case. I think I basically said what I wanted to say in general. So if we just have 5 minutes left, then instead of going more into detail, maybe just tell me if you have any questions here.
Yeah, actually, because we won't have time, quickly, I would just ask regarding the jig. Do you think it would have the same limitations for like specific? Jig could be a great encore. I feel like it works really well. I switched back to Stevens, but okay, that's a very small technical. I just felt like it's easier to reach far because it's jump right.
Yes.
But yeah, let's leave that. I feel like that one actually works. It's kind of not exactly ergonomic, but definitely much more than because you have the constant spring rate and it's accompaniment.
Yes, I think you're right with that because it's simply not as polyphonic. It does have those jumps and kind of creates a polyphony with the jumps, but it's not constantly 2 or 3 voices. So yes, I definitely think that could be a better option than some of the other movements, probably. Yes.
And Saraband works fantastically. It's really fantastic. But I thought we won't have enough time, so I didn't put it because it's like 5 minutes, 5.5.
No, sure. I definitely could imagine it as well. Yes. No, it's really more about the strongly polyphonic movements, I think. And then if you add stuff like the ornaments or some quicker runs like in the Menuet, that really kind of go to the limitations of our instrument.
Yeah, but I think it's a bit experimental.
Yeah. I mean, probably it's a matter of taste in the end. I can just tell you my approach, and for me, this argument is simply bigger. Then, of course, I understand that it's fantastic music and we all want to play it. But better search for something that really fits the instrument. Yeah, just like we said before. Yes, and I think, however, in the chic, you could dare a little bit more to be a little bit more extroverted, just like you said already before, because the chic coming from Spain actually, and with this like a little bit more fiery, and trying a little bit more the different dynamics. A little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually gonna play the whole thing. I played the whole partita in a competition in October in Poland, and I think I'm doing it again if I progress in September now, upcoming in Finland.
Yes.
Would you change the approach of these things apart from, of course, what we discussed now? Would you change the approach of how to actually play it in a live performance and jury? Do you stick to the material strictly? We don't know if they like Russian Baroque or German Baroque, right? What would be like the amount of risk that I would take for it to be, just effective, just because it's already not very ergonomic, as we have found out for our instrument.
Yes.
And how do you, find the balance for a competition?
Well, in general, I would stick to the music as good as possible, especially for a competition. But with Baroque music, like I said before, I think if you want to change something, even with the tempo too much, especially in the Baroque music, much more than in the Romantic music, there are rules that kind of give you a good basis to be followed. And just like I said before as well, also I would try to use the possibilities that you have, where you can still stay very true to the text, that are quite big, before actually changing the text for interpretation purposes. So use dynamics, sound colors, articulation, all of those things first, and try to expand on them as good as possible within the text. And if you take it, for example, a little bit slower, this probably could help, like you said.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I will keep experimenting with it.
Yes, that's always good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Nice to meet you. So, Tim.
All right. Thank you, Christoph, once again for coming on board. Amazing session once again. I know everyone's taken a lot from it, so
Thank you so
very much. I will now.
Thanks for your time, Tim, and all the